Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bright Founders Talk at Temi. Temi is an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Welcome to our podcast, where we bring you the most inspiring stories of entrepreneurs and experts in the software development industry. And each week, we interview successful leaders who share their unique journeys and valuable insights. I'm your host, Barry, and today we have an amazing guest joining us, Danika Chilibeck, who is co-founder at Caddy. Hello, Danika. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
I would ask how you are, but as we've just said, you're in Mexico with one of the most stunning views ever. So I can't imagine that you'll be anything other than great. Am I right?
Exactly. Oh, yeah. I'm all sunshine and rainbows out here.
So first of all, I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak with me. For those people who don't know you or your company, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and the company that you work at?
Sure. So I'm Danika. I am from Ottawa, Canada. And my first job was actually in finance. And I realized really quickly I did not like corporate finance. So spent the next decade of my life working in tech. My first company was at Shopify, which is, I know, a Canadian tech darling, which is now, I would say, probably a global tech darling at this point. And, I always knew I wanted to start a business. I just didn't really know when or what. So after Shopify, I went to a smaller company called Rewind. And there I was able to oversee quite a lot of the company beyond finance. So I moved quickly up to director of operations, and I was overseeing a few different functions, including HR and recruitment. And yeah, when I was at the company, I was lucky. A lot of my roles were fully remote. So I was able to work from beautiful places like Puerto Vallarta in the winters. And that's actually where I met my co-founder, Delaney. So we were both working remote from here, both working in tech companies. And when we were in Puerto Vallarta, one day Delaney knocked at my door and she's like, "Hey, I have this really exciting proposition for you. I'd love to start a company with you." And that company was actually like a very different business. It was like a community to help people get jobs in remote tech. And so we had this community going on for a few months. And at the same time, at my company in my role, I was hiring a lot. So I kind of got to see the employer side of things and the things about it that were, I would say, a little bit broken and not fantastic, which led us to basically launch what Caddy is today, which is a global hiring marketplace where employers can post roles and have multiple headhunters work on the role at once and give you a short list of candidates within days. So that is a little bit about me and Caddy.
Well, actually, you're talking to someone who is ex-finance as well and also hates corporations, so you're in good company.
Nice.
Just to ask you a little bit more about some of your experiences or frustrations with hiring, what made you realize that there was a better way to match talent, and how did you go about that?
Good question. So I would say the issue that I had with hiring within our company at the time was just how volatile it can be, right? Like you might have 1 month where you have 10 roles, and then you have another month where you might have 0 roles, right? It fluctuates a lot. And so from just an operational efficiency standpoint, which is something I obviously looked at a lot being head of operations, was how can you build a system in place that just allows your company to be more flexible and efficient, right? We had headhunters and recruiters internally, and I do, think that's great, and a lot of companies need that. But in those moments where you have an influx of roles, what do, right? You can't necessarily hire someone full time, but then the other alternatives are just super, super expensive and time consuming. We had gone out and worked with a few headhunters and agencies when we had those moments. And, there were a lot of meetings, there was a lot of repetition. Maybe the first month that headhunter would start off really, really strong, but then the second month it would plateau or decline, right? Because they had other roles and they didn't have as much capacity and things like that. So I think in general for me, it was just difficult because I was I was accountable for all of for the time to hire across the business. And there were a lot of complaints coming our way, right? From different leaders saying, my role should be prioritized. No, mine should. And meanwhile, we only had, certain capacity on the team to do that. And it was really hard to manage that capacity. So now, looking at what we've built, it's definitely a way for people to deal with that and to have that flexibility more than before.
Would you say that there's one main core problem that you're trying to solve in the hire process? And if there is like one core problem, what is it?
The one core problem would probably be time to hire. So we primarily work with startups and founders. They're growing super quickly. They want to find amazing talent really quickly, right? Because they don't want to wait, 3 months, 6 months to find someone who's awesome. So a lot of our business, the way we set stuff up is really to focus on that metric. Okay, how can we find an amazing person, but reduce the time to hire? And we do that, having multiple headhunters working on a role at once, having people who have those established networks and processes in place that can do the hiring a lot faster. And, obviously through the platform, we automate a lot. We have integrations with Slack and all sorts of stuff. So in terms of your time as well, we just save you tons of time. So really it's all about time, speed and giving you back time during the process as well.
And how do you find like the right product market fit?
Yeah. So when we first launched, our product looked super different. We actually started with a AI sourcing agent is what we had first built. So this is essentially just a agent that does the sourcing piece of recruitment, which is really just reaching out to people who you think would be a great fit for your company. This is something I was doing a lot as a hiring manager. And so it was the first thing I thought of like, okay, this is something that's super time consuming that I want to try to automate. When we launched this product, we learned really quickly there were a lot of issues with it. On the candidate side, there is obviously a lot of hesitancy with AI agents. I think with AI agents, you end up, it's not really at the point yet where it can replace a human completely. We're actually quite far from it. I think when it comes to recruitment, it is really important to have that human component still and using AI to speed things up and speed up decisions, but not to be the main decision makers, if that makes sense. And so we learned pretty quickly that that product wasn't great. And as much as we had a few customers paying us who were kind of like a 5 on 10 in terms of how much they liked our product, we didn't have anyone that was like a 9 on 10. Like, I need to use this. This is like part of my day to day. Like, my business would be screwed without this. Right. So we went actually down, I would call it pivot hell for months, probably like 6 months. We eventually were even acting as a full-blown recruitment agency for a few months where as we were just trying to, pay the bills and find product market fit. And I'll give a shout out to my friend. His name's Rob Bukeen. He's a founder of a company called Noibu. And we had a chat about this. And I was like, Rob, help a sister out. Like, how can I find this thing called product market fit? And he gave me really good advice. He's like, when you're talking to customers or prospect customers, right? First start with the metric that they care most about. Like, what is that KPI, which is what you asked earlier. And for our customers, it was time to fill, right? And instead of trying to put your product in front of people and trying to validate the product, you actually don't want to mention anything. And you just want to talk about their day to day and where are they running into problems when they're talking about their day to day. Where do they get emotional? Like, where do they kind of twitch and like become frustrated, right? Like, those are the areas that you really want to dig into where typically there is opportunity. And I think for us in this crazy trend of AI everything, we were like, we need to use AI and like build an AI agent of some sorts. And we really kind of got swept into the storm of AI. And the problem with that was like we were completely ignoring like what is actually the problem? Like, what are people trying to achieve and not forcing AI on a problem to fix it. So we kind of went back to the drawing board. We talked to over 50 people probably, and we found that, okay, when we were talking to them, it was like the time to fill. It was the time that went into speaking to recruiters and agencies. It was the capacity of those recruiters that they work with that was causing the bottleneck, things like that. And after having all those conversations, the other very important thing is you don't want to listen to the solutions that they are recommending to you. That is totally a trap. Your job as the founder is to just look at the problems and you be the one that comes up with the creative solution or feature to that problem. And most of the time, like, no one is going to tell you what that is. You really, that's where the creative thinking comes to place. But That's how we did it. We tried multiple things, maybe I want to say like 5 or 7 different product iterations, and it was really this marketplace platform idea that seemed to be a really good fit. And I can say now, I'm ecstatic because over the last 3 months we've had this platform. I'm definitely feeling the pull from the market. It feels like, when we get on calls, it doesn't even take any quote unquote selling, right? Like people just want it and they expand once they're in it. We're filling roles super quick. And when I look at that metric, we're making it better, right? When you're actually tracking that first metric and are you actually able to improve that metric? Yes or no? Like that should be what you're super hyper focused on. And, keep iterating, keep changing things until you're actually impacting that metric for the better.
One thing that you did talk about, which I'm kind of interested to hear about, especially with AI, how do you balance like replacing people with AI and allowing AI to kind of not take over the role of people, but to work alongside? How do you strike like the right balance? Or is there a right balance? Is the ultimate goal replacement?
I mean, you're asking someone who is super obsessed with automations and productivity and efficiency. So, my philosophy on it is you always want to try to automate as much as possible until you can't anymore, until it starts to negatively impact whatever you're trying to achieve. And so, for me, it's like when I think about recruitment, there are so many ways that we use AI on Caddy to help our recruiters do their job better. I think AI can be used to get incredible leverage in what you're doing. I think it can help you get to those end decisions faster, but it's not at the point yet where it can make decisions for you or replace human judgment. Some examples of that. So on our platform, the concept is when you post a role, we have multiple human headhunters that work on the role at the same time. Now, we believe that these headhunters, the huge advantage of them versus AI agents are things like the human connections they have, their existing networks. We have headhunters all over the world in major tech hubs, and they have decades of experience and relationships with candidates, right? So it's really hard to replace that with AI. I think we are a long ways away from doing that. However, with those recruiters, we are constantly trying to find ways to help them do their job better with AI, whether that is through AI matching. So, like when a recruiter submits a candidate, we are able to do a quick screen against the job requirements and help you discover, okay, what are the gaps? What are the areas you should maybe dig in deeper with the candidate, right? Or when you're having that first conversation with a candidate, we're recording the conversation. Can we summarize the notes to make your life easier as a recruiter? We have this one feature we built where you can actually search through your existing connections and network and find some candidates that might be a great fit for you so that you're not spending hours sifting through those lists yourself. So we are very pro AI internally, even ourselves in terms of building out our team. Often we think, okay, if I'm repeating something 5 times, how can I automate this, right? Is there an AI agent or AI product or solution that can help me automate this myself to give me leverage? But I will say, again, you always get to a point where it can only take you so far, and then you need to bring a human in typically. So I would say it really varies. It depends on the situation, the product, so many things. So I don't have like a yes or no answer, but I'm here for try to do as much as you can with automation, and then bring in the people afterwards, which I know is ironic for someone who runs a hiring platform, but I that's what I recommend internally. That's what we recommend to our customers, and we never encourage someone to hire somebody unless it really makes sense.
Mm. When I was working in finance, we were told to use or help with making AI resumes so that the AIs that were checking the resumes, they would match up. Do you think like traditional resumes and job descriptions as they are becoming obsolete due to this? And if so, why?
No, because these AI agents and or recruiters still need a way to get to know you. And it's difficult to do that without a resume, right? I mean, we've got LinkedIn profiles, we have the ability to see people's GitHub portfolios. We can find people's social media. I mean, I think there's definitely other ways that people can get to know you outside of a resume, through referrals or personal connections and things like that. But it is still a great tool to get to know someone. And so Yeah, I think maybe over time it will be obsolete, but as for right now, every single hiring manager still wants a resume. I'm surprised myself. Like, we'll have a bunch of information about a candidate, including all these things, maybe not their like paper resume, and the hiring managers are still like, I want to see the paper resume. So I'm sure in the next 50 years it will become obsolete, but for now, I would say it's still very relevant.
So someone's listening to you now and they're thinking, yeah, I like everything you're talking about. It makes sense. Like when you first meet up with stakeholders, people who are potentially interested in joining your outfit, like what kind of mistakes do employers usually make that you see when hiring like early career or non-traditional talent, for example?
I would say one, they try to do all of it themselves, thinking it's going to be very easy and quick. They think that they'll just like post a job listing and, they'll find their unicorn talent person tomorrow, which never is the case. Nowadays, on the flip side, AI has made it so much worse for candidates because when you post a job, you will get hundreds, if not thousands, of applicants overnight, literally. And it's like, it just comes down to so much luck. Like, if you're a founder, especially, you have no time to go through thousands of applications. So you might go through the first 50 and then try to pick the best person out of the first 50. So it really just comes down to luck if you're the candidate. Oftentimes, they'll try to go also the referral route, which is a great route when you're first starting to hire your first few people. But again, you're kind of limiting yourself to the pool of amazing talent out there. The other thing that we are very pro is just opening up your hiring outside of just one little geography. So I see a lot of founders, especially early stage founders, who really want to hire within their city, which is fine. We help these people all the time. But I think that's a huge mistake because if you think of, I'll just take Ottawa as an example for myself. Ottawa has about 1 million people. There are only so many amazing AI engineers within Ottawa. And if they are truly world class, they will likely be moving to a bigger city or somewhere else, or they might want to work from Mexico, right? Because they appreciate the weather. So, limiting yourself to such a small pool of candidates early on, I think is a big mistake. Not just from you're limiting the amazing talent you can bring on, but also from a cost standpoint. We help founders in San Francisco often, and someone with 1 year of experience is costing the same as someone with 10 years of experience, sometimes 20. And depending what you're going for, I mean, you're really limiting yourself if you're just sticking to one really small geography. So, of course, I am super pro remote hiring and global hiring. I mean, I'm working from Mexico now. I spend a lot of time in Vancouver and in Ottawa. I've seen firsthand, at Shopify, how opening up your talent pool to be global is just such a competitive advantage, especially when you're small, right? So I would say those are some of the main things that I would recommend to anyone who's doing their first hires.
How do you personally measure success for your company? Do you measure it differently from the way that your customers would measure it? And if so, how?
We have a few KPIs internally that we look at, and all of them, for the most part, are related to our customers. So, of course, time to hire is a big one. I would say for our talent partners, we're always looking at things like their approval rates, right, on the agency side. So, how many candidates that we submit are actually getting approved. We look at retention rates of our candidates. So, once someone is hired, we want to make sure that they're in it for the long term. So, we track retention rates very closely. So those are some of the metrics that we look at for our platform, just to say, hey, like, is what we're building actually working? Is it actually making hiring better for everyone? And that's super important to us. So those are some of the metrics externally. I'd say internally, I mean, we look at a lot of stuff. We look at growth from a, lead and pipeline standpoint. We look at our conversion rates across the funnel. We look at how many new customers and talent partners are we onboarding on an ongoing basis, and like, is that number increasing? A lot of things like that. I would say right now we're not as worried about revenue just yet. I mean, we are generating revenue, and it's nice to see that number going up, but I really think at this stage we're about a year into business, and going back to that product market fit, it's like how do we get customers to love our product, right? There's this metric called NPS, right? Net Promoter Score. And you ask your customers, how likely would you be to recommend us to a colleague or a friend? And we are trying really hard to be like an 8 or a 9 on average, right? And I think when you get there, that's when you know you found a product that is really worth something to people. And, again, going back to that product market fit, it's something that has helped us see, okay, now we've actually built something that people love, which is amazing.
So I imagine you're looking out at your competitors as well, because I'm sure it's a very, very challenging space to be in. Are there any trends that you're seeing or think that potentially you will see that are exciting for you right now?
Sure. I think a big trend that we're excited about is the fact that a lot of talent partners are wanting to be individual freelancers and own their own businesses. I think we've seen a huge wave of a lot of layoffs, especially in tech within the last 5 years. And it's kind of making people realize, like, okay, maybe I can't depend on my company as much to make income for myself. And so, probably one of my favorite things about our business is the fact that we're able to help people make a living. And I remember years ago when I mean, I've always wanted to start a company. I've tried to start like 10 different companies, none of them worked out. But I remember thinking, all of the businesses out there that I love and admire the most are the ones that allow people to make money. So think Airbnb, Facebook Marketplace, Uber. I've used all of these products. I use them often and it's amazing. Like it helps you make money. And one thing for us that I'm seeing as a trend is like a lot of these recruiters and talent partners, they would rather have the flexibility to pick up the roles when they want to and work on certain roles that they want and make their own money, right? For effort that they put in. One amazing story is just last week, we had a role in San Francisco. It was about 150,000 US, right, for this role. And one of our headhunters, she is based in Argentina, and she closed a role and the payout was over 10,000 USD. And I go on, Google and I'm like, what's the average salary of like a recruiter in this city, right? And it's like the average salary is $12,000 USD per year. And I'm like, holy shit, like this person made almost a year's worth of salary in one role on our platform. Imagine how life changing that is, right? And you think like that's for one role. So I'm super excited for the day that we have one headhunter who's going to be a millionaire on our platform. I know the day's coming and that's what gets me the most excited. Like I think more and more there's going to be these people who realize I can actually make more money doing my own thing than working full time at a company. And I'm super stoked about that.
Yep, think it's time to move out of the UK and move myself to a different country where the wages are very low and live that life, right? So you kind of new still. It's been a year, but like, what would you say will be or is the most challenging part of scaling up like a people-focused platform?
With this new platform, not that it's been easy. I mean, it is a marketplace, so everyone's always talking about the chicken egg, right? Like you want to make sure that you're scaling both sides at the same time. So I think what will be challenging, I mean, not to name, I won't name names, but we've had a few demos with some pretty big heavy hitters in recent weeks. And it would just take, one or two of those to not just even double the amount of roles we have, but like 10x the amount of roles we have on our marketplace. So of course, just managing that with the supply side is going to be interesting for us. So far, it hasn't been an issue. We've had a lot of interest on both sides, which has been great. But I can see that being just something interesting for us to manage and make sure that everything's in place. I mean, right now it's like we're still really hands-on with every single employer and talent partner on our platform. We have a Slack channel with everybody. We talk to everyone, day to day if we can. So I'm just always thinking, okay, what is this going to look like when we have 1,000 talent partners, 1,000 employers, and like, 10,000 roles? Like we're going to get there, but those are certainly going to come with their own challenges along the way.
What a nice position to be in. Having to upscale by 10. Some people would say that's a great thing. Others might think differently. You mentioned we are coming towards the end, but just before we do finish, you did mention like you've been very open and honest actually about some of your successes and some of your, I hate saying the word failures, but it depends how you see it, challenges maybe. So you've been through that journey. If people are watching this now and they want to be founders, they want to create their own businesses, Having been through the journey that you've been, what would you say is the best piece of advice that you could give someone who is in that early stage?
Me personally, my biggest challenge was always persevering and sticking to an idea. I'm sure there's listeners out there, you're like me, you're like, you've tried 10 different things, you've like dabbled, you're really risk averse, you like money, so like walking away from your day job is really terrifying. And for me, the biggest game changer was finding a business partner that I love working with every single day. I used to think like, oh, I need to find a technical co-founder. I need to find someone who, matches my skill set and is complementary and, blah, blah, blah. No, 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 no. Just find someone in your life that you love doing life with, like whether that's a friend, a family member, whatever, because you will spend so much time with this person and make sure your values are aligned. Like me and Delaney, we are so similar. Our values are similar. She has such a great vibe. Like when it comes to business, she just figures everything out. She's like a self-made vibe coder. She's built our entire platform from day one without being a dev. She's amazing. Like this girl, you should get her on the podcast. She finds ways to automate everything we touch, right? Whether it's marketing, sales, success, product, it's like crazy, and she's just such a lovely person to work with, and when you're starting a company, it's not like the product, it's not the customers, it's not none of that is hard. Like, you'll figure it all out. You really just need to have this mentality that you will figure it out, and having a partner who is calm in those moments and just, like, keeps you at bay and, like, you go through the ups and downs together is so key, and you just like working with them, because what is life? Like, you spend so much time at your day job, and I was thinking about this earlier. My fiancé is a founder, and we've been dating for 9 years. And since I started my company with Delaney, I spend more time talking to Delaney than I do to my fiance now because we are talking all day, all night, weekends. Like it's constant, right? So, yeah, my biggest piece of advice is like find someone who's, you just genuinely enjoy working with and go into business with them and don't worry about all the other stuff. You will figure it out.
Perfect. And what a lovely feel good way to end the show. Look, Danika, I just want to thank you so much again for taking the time to talking with us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks so much for having me. This has been super fun.
That was Danika Chilibeck, co founder at Caddy.